Shark attacks are rare, but when they happen, they're absolutely terrifying. These aren't just accidents. They're moments of pure horror that unfold in the blink of an eye, leaving devastation in their wake. In this video, we're counting down the 5 most horrifying shark-related deaths ever recorded. From sudden ambushes in crystal-clear tropical waters to brutal encounters shockingly close to shore, these attacks ended in ways so gruesome and unforgettable that they still haunt the world to this day.
A 16-year-old girl has died after being mauled by a shark while swimming in Perth's Swan River. Stella Barry had jumped off a jet ski while on the water with friends when she was attacked.
16-year-old Stella Barry, a vibrant student from Shenton College, was out on the Swan River near Fremantle, soaking in the day with her friends. She was riding jet skis, laughing, full of life. Nothing about that moment hinted at the nightmare to come. Then, in a flash, everything changed. Stella saw a pod of dolphins in the water and, excited, jumped in to swim with them. It was the kind of spontaneous, innocent act anyone might make. But beneath the surface wasn't a dolphin. It was a bull shark. And in one swift, brutal moment, it attacked. The shark latched onto her leg with incredible force. Her friends screamed. Chaos erupted. Paramedics arrived quickly, but the damage was too severe. Despite desperate efforts, Stella was pronounced dead at the scene. Just like that, a radiant young life was gone, and the river that once felt like freedom became the scene of unspeakable tragedy. It was the first fatal shark attack in the Swan River in over 100 years. The last one happened in 1923. Stella's death didn't just shake her family and friends, it shocked an entire nation. Her parents, Matt and Sophie Barry, released a heartbreaking statement. They spoke of their daughter's love for art, her dream of living in Europe, and how she was the best daughter they could have imagined. Her friends, especially those who were there, were left traumatized. Laura Connolly called her the sweetest, smartest girl she knew. Tegan MacArthur said she still couldn't believe it. Just a day earlier, they'd been texting, planning their lives. Now all that was left were memories and pain. What made it even more terrifying was the location. The Swan River isn't known for shark attacks. Wildlife scientist Dr. Vanessa Perrotta noted that sharks are rare in that part of the river. But bull sharks are unique. They move between salt and fresh water, and during breeding season they sometimes enter estuaries like the Swan. That's likely what brought the predator so close to where Stella had been swimming. Authorities moved quickly. Fisheries Minister Don Punch confirmed that a bull shark was the likely culprit, though investigations continued. He emphasized the rarity of these attacks. Australia averages less than 1 shark-related death per year, but those statistics didn't ease the grief. Stella was young. She was in a place that felt safe, and now she was gone. The government soon announced plans to install a swimming enclosure in the river. Meanwhile, the Department of Primary Industries and Regional Development began tagging bull sharks in the Swan and Canning rivers, using acoustic receivers to track their movements and send real-time alerts. It was a race to prevent the unthinkable from happening again. Experts like Dr. Leonardo Guida from the Australian Marine Conservation Society urged the public to better understand shark behavior. He stressed how things like fishing waste near swimming areas could unintentionally draw sharks closer to people. Education, he said, was key to avoiding future tragedies. Even Fremantle's mayor, Hannah Fitzhardinge, admitted she'd never imagined such danger in the river. She herself had swum near the site of the attack just days before. Now she was calling for stronger protections, possibly even permanent shark barriers. But one detail stood out, chilling in hindsight. In 2017, Stella had designed a shark-free ocean pool for Perth's Cottesloe Beach as part of a school project. It was creative, thoughtful, built with swimmer safety in mind. It was never built. Looking back, the project felt eerily prophetic. DNA tests eventually confirmed it. A bull shark had killed Stella. The findings were handed to the coroner, and the investigation pressed on, but the loss was permanent. November 1st, 2023, started just like that at Granite's Beach, south of Streaky Bay on South Australia's Eyre Peninsula. The beach was alive. Surfers carved through the swells and beachgoers watched the ocean dance. Among them was Todd Gendel, a 55-year-old surfer with decades of experience and a reputation for chasing the perfect wave across Australia. For Todd, this wasn't just a hobby, it was a way of life. He had just caught a wave and was paddling back out into the water, calm and focused, like he'd done hundreds of times before. But this time, something was different. Something was waiting. Without warning, a massive shape rose from the depths. A 13-foot great white shark, cutting through the water with terrifying speed. In an instant, it slammed into Todd's surfboard, knocking him off. Witnesses froze in disbelief. Jack Martin, standing on the nearby cliffs, saw the horror unfold. The shark circled back, grabbed Todd, thrashed violently, and pulled him under. It all happened in seconds, and then nothing. Panic rippled across the beach. Screams echoed. Surfers scrambled. Everyone knew what they had just seen, but no one could believe it. One of them, local surfer Jeff Schmucker, didn't hesitate. He jumped on his jet ski, racing toward the spot where it had happened. What he found was haunting. Todd's surfboard, floating alone, bearing a massive bite mark. The shark, Jeff would later describe, was the size of a sedan, weighing over 2,000 pounds, an unstoppable force from the deep. Emergency services were called immediately. Police, volunteers, and marine search crews launched an urgent operation, but the sea was unforgiving. Strong waves and swirling currents made everything harder. Superintendent Paul Barr of South Australia Police admitted what everyone feared. Finding the shark, or Todd, would be almost impossible. Great whites roam far and wide. They vanish just as quickly as they appear. The search continued for days. Water police, aerial units, and state emergency services scoured the coastline, hoping for a sign, but all they recovered was part of Todd's surfboard and a torn piece of his wetsuit. No body, no final moment to hold on to. The ocean had taken him completely. Todd's family, devastated but dignified, released a statement thanking the rescuers and the community of Streaky Bay. Todd wasn't just a surfer. He was a father, a friend, a free spirit who found joy in the rhythm of the sea. The town of Streaky Bay grieved deeply. Locals who had surfed alongside Todd for years struggled to make sense of it all. Marty Goody, a veteran surfer in the area, spoke quietly about the fear they all lived with, about the sharks they knew were out there, about how it seemed like there were more of them now. He'd surfed those waters for 40 years. He'd never seen anything like this. This was the second fatal shark attack in South Australian waters that year. And though the statistics would later call it a rare event, for the people who were there, for those who loved Todd, it was anything but rare.
The family of a teenage surfer killed in a shark attack in South Australia has spoken publicly for the first time. Cowi, they have described him as courageous and a magical young boy.
December 28th, 2023, was supposed to be a special day. 15-year-old Cowi was out surfing at Ethel Beach on South Australia's York Peninsula, sharing a father-son trip with his dad, Tim. They had driven nearly 280 kilometers from their home in Adelaide, chasing waves like they had so many times before. For them, the ocean was a bond, something sacred. Kai had been riding waves since he was 7, proudly joining the Micrograms Junior Surf Club. He was a natural, a competitor, a boy who found his rhythm where the sea met the sky. Surfing wasn't just a passion for him, it was part of who he was. And Tim, he treasured every moment, watching his son paddle out, carve through the surf, smile at the sea. It was everything, but that peace was shattered in an instant. Tim stood on the shore, eyes locked on Kai, when the water broke apart in violence. A massive shark surged up from beneath the surface, and in the blink of an eye it was on Kai. There was no time to react, no time to scream, just chaos. Tim, frozen in horror, did the only thing he could. He called for help. Emergency services rushed to the beach, but it was too late. The boy who had filled his father's world with joy and purpose was gone, taken in front of him by something no one could control. Shock rippled through the community. Shark expert Andrew Fox tried to explain the unexplainable. The overcast sky, the darker water. Conditions like these might affect a shark's vision, increasing the chances of a mistake, a strike. But no answer could undo what had been done. Weeks later, the wound was still fresh. On January 22, 2024, more than 500 people gathered at Seaford Beach, the Bowl, to say goodbye. It wasn't a typical funeral. It was something more intimate, more raw. People wore surf tees, football jerseys, beach clothes, what Kai would have loved. The shoreline was filled with flowers, seashells, and photos of a boy with an unforgettable smile. A wooden bench facing the ocean overflowed with notes, one from a fellow surfer reading, "Forever in our hearts, Kai. It's been a pleasure sharing the waves with you over the years. I'll miss you so much." Tim Cowi stood before them and tried to find words. He spoke not just as a father, but as a man forever changed. He talked about Kai's adventurous heart, his love for surfing, for family, for life. He remembered the drives to the beach, their conversations about waves, and the joy of watching his son glide across the water. And through the grief, he held on to a quiet hope. that one day somehow he would see his boy again. Kai's younger brother Jet, brave beyond his years, stepped forward too. He called Kai the best big brother ever. His words were simple, aching, pure. He talked about how much he'd miss their talks, the cool things Kai taught him, the way he made everything better. At the end of the service, mourners gathered by the water and sprinkled sand into the ocean. Sand collected from 41 surf spots across the state, each one a part of Kai's journey. Then they formed a guard of honor, shoulder to shoulder, eyes on the sea. The Seaview Road board riders later planned a paddle out in his memory, a final tribute from the community that had watched Kai grow into something special. His aunt, Lauren Barley, captured it best. She said his smile, his joy for life, it was contagious. Everyone around him felt it, and now, without him, something was missing. A brightness had been stolen. But even in mourning, questions lingered. Why had there been so many attacks? Was the ocean changing? Were we doing something wrong, polluting waters, altering ecosystems, attracting danger without knowing it? The answers were murky, the danger real.
The woman who was attacked by a bull shark last night in Sydney Harbour has been identified as 29-year-old Lauren O'Neill.
It was just before 7:45 p.m. on January 29th, 2024. The sun dipped low over Elizabeth Bay, casting golden light across the harbour. The summer heat lingered in the air, and the water shimmered, calm and inviting. For 29-year-old microbiologist Lauren O'Neill, it was the perfect time for a short swim. Just off a private pier near her home, it was a familiar spot. There were no shark nets, but this wasn't the open ocean. It was her backyard. She felt safe. She slipped into the water expecting peace. Boats bobbed nearby. The city lights began to flicker. Then, without warning, agony, sharp, searing pain tore through her right leg. She screamed. The water reddened around her. A bull shark had bitten her. From his apartment above, neighbor Michael Porter heard her cry. He looked out and saw Lauren clinging to a ladder, her leg limp, blood pouring. He called emergency services and ran. Across the street, Georgia Singleton and her wife, Fiona Crow, a veterinarian, also heard the screams. Fiona had just bought fresh bandages that day. She grabbed them and rushed to the scene. Lauren was still conscious, barely. Her leg was mangled. She was losing blood fast. Fiona didn't hesitate. She dropped to her knees and applied a tourniquet. Neighbors tossed down towels and blankets to keep Lauren warm. Amid the panic, people acted. Within minutes, paramedics arrived. A rescue helicopter circled overhead. Lauren was rushed to St. Vincent's Hospital, drifting in and out of consciousness, but alive. That night, surgeons worked tirelessly to save her leg, and they did. Against the odds, she avoided amputation. In the following days, Lauren released a heartfelt statement. She thanked the neighbors who saved her, the emergency workers, and the surgical team. Her mother Petra publicly praised Fiona's quick thinking and medical skills, calling her a hero. She knew how easily this could have ended in tragedy. The community was stunned. Elizabeth Bay, just a stone's throw from the Opera House, wasn't where people feared sharks, but bull sharks, aggressive and territorial, do patrol these waters. It had been 15 years since the last attack in the harbor. Shark experts confirmed the bite pattern matched a bull shark and warned that warm, murky water at dusk increases risk. Attacks may still be rare, but they're never impossible. Lauren is now recovering in a hospital ward. The pain is still there, but so is the hope. She's walking a long road back. She may never see the harbor the same way again, and neither will her neighbors, because survival isn't always about luck. Sometimes it's about who hears your scream and whether they run toward it. The waters off Oahu's north shore looked calm that Sunday afternoon, too calm. The sun cast its golden rays over the glassy surface, and everything about the scene whispered peace. But beneath that deceptive beauty, something deadly was waiting. For Tomeo Perry, it was just another day in the ocean he called home. With his surfboard under his arm, he paddled out near Goat Island, a spot he knew better than most. These waves had been his playground, his sanctuary, his proving ground for decades. Tomeo wasn't just another surfer. He was Oahu's own, part of the very soul of the island. A fearless charger of the biggest waves, a dedicated lifeguard, a teacher of the sea, and a beacon of aloha. He had faced down monster swells at Pipeline, shared the screen in Pirates of the Caribbean, Blue Crush, and Lost, and stood as a guardian on these beaches, watching over others with the same reverence he gave the water. But Tomeo's story was never about fame. It was about love for the ocean, for his people, and for every soul drawn to the waves. On June 23rd, 2024, something unimaginable shattered that legacy. While surfing near Goat Island, a place where he'd probably caught thousands of waves, Tamayo was attacked, brutally. A shark struck with ferocity, tearing through the water and leaving chaos in its wake. Witnesses would later describe a horror that didn't seem real. Tamayo had lost an arm and a leg in the attack. Lifeguards raced toward him on jet skis, fighting both the ocean and the clock to bring him back. They made it to shore. They tried everything, but the wounds were catastrophic. The man who had spent his life rescuing others couldn't be saved. He was 49. The news hit Hawaii like a thunderclap. On an island where everyone knows the water and those who live by it, Tamayo's death was personal. Surfboards were lowered, tears were shed, and hearts broke. Acting Ocean Safety Chief Kurt Lager called him a lifeguard loved by all. Honolulu Mayor Rick Blangiardi called it a tragic loss and remembered him as a legendary waterman. To many, Tamayo was more than a protector. He was the spirit of the sea in human form. In the days that followed, the waves seemed different, slower, as if the ocean itself was mourning. Tamayo had once said he was just a small-time island boy who could bang it out with the world's best, and he had. He went toe-to-toe with the biggest swells, inspired generations, and lived every moment with a fire that lit up beaches from Waikiki to Waimea. But in the cruelest of ironies, the very sea that had shaped him, raised him, and given him everything, turned on him. And now, that vast Pacific horizon, so full of stories, of echoes, of legends, holds one more, the story of Tamayo Perry, a waterman who lived with fearless grace, who left behind not just memories, but a wake of inspiration that will ripple forever.